7 Super Bowl rings, 5 MVPs, more wins than any quarterback in history. Tom Brady didn't just conquer football, he became its final standard. For decades, greatness protected him, insulated him, convinced the world that discipline and willpower could solve anything. But what happens when the noise fades? And what does victory mean when there's no scoreboard left to settle the score? On a quiet December day, far from the stadium lights, that illusion fractured. Because this isn't a story about records or championships, it's about the cost of obsession, about choices that look heroic in hindsight until you're forced to live with them. This is the story of Tom Brady, and the moment winning stopped being enough. The letter in the drawer before we can understand how Tom Brady lost his family. We need to go back to a moment in 2020 when he admitted something that shocked everyone who heard it. He was sitting across from Howard Stern in one of those long, unfiltered interviews where celebrities sometimes say more than they intend to. And Tom Brady, the man famous for never showing weakness, for always projecting confidence and control, made a confession that revealed cracks in the perfect facade. He told Howard Stern about a letter. Not a love letter, not a note of encouragement before a big game. This was something else entirely. Gisele Bundchen, his wife, the mother of his children, the woman who had rearranged her entire life to support his career, had written him a wake-up call. And what she wrote was brutal. In that letter, Gisele told her husband point-blank that she was not satisfied with their marriage. She wrote that their relationship only worked for one person, and that person was him. She felt like a single mother raising their children alone while he chased championships and trophies. 6 months of every year, he was completely consumed by football. Early morning workouts that started before the sun came up, film sessions that lasted for hours, road games that took him away for days at a time, team meetings and practice schedules, and media obligations that left nothing for his family. And when the football season finally ended, she wrote, he did not come home and help. He did not suddenly become present. Instead, he dove into business meetings and training camps and endorsement deals and charity events. There was always another project, always another opportunity. Always something more important than being there for the people who loved him most. Gisele wrote that she had goals and dreams too. Dreams she had put aside for over a decade to support his career. She had been one of the highest-paid supermodels in the world. She had walked runways in Paris and Milan and New York. She had built her own empire before she ever met Tom Brady. And she had set all of that aside, moved her life across the country multiple times, rebuilt everything again and again so that her husband could keep playing football. Brady told Howard Stern that the truth in that letter was brutal to hear. He admitted that Gisele was right about many things. He said he still keeps that letter in a drawer. He reads it sometimes. It reminds him of what he almost lost. But here is the thing that makes this story so devastating. He did not almost lose it. He lost it completely. Because even after reading that letter, even after going to marriage counseling, even after promising to change and be more present and prioritize his family, Tom Brady was already planning something that would prove every single word Gisele wrote to be absolutely true. And that decision would cost him his marriage forever. The 40-day betrayal, February 1st, 2022. After 22 seasons and 7 Super Bowl championships, Tom Brady finally announced his retirement from professional football. He was 44 years old. The statement he released talked about giving his teammates and competitors everything he had for more than 2 decades. He said it was time to focus on other things that required his attention. He called it a difficult decision. Gisele Bundchen was overjoyed. She posted a celebration on Instagram talking about how excited she was for their next chapter together. After all those years of waiting, after writing that painful letter, after all the therapy sessions and hard conversations, her husband was finally choosing his family. Finally choosing her. Finally proving that the promises he made were not just words designed to buy more time. She had earned this moment. She had stood by him through 22 seasons. She had cheered in stadium seats and watched from home and celebrated victories and consoled him after defeats. She had raised their children largely on her own during football season while presenting a united front to the world. She had done everything a supportive spouse could possibly do. And now, finally, it was her turn. That feeling of joy and relief lasted exactly 40 days. On March 13, 2022, Tom Brady stunned the entire sports world by announcing he was coming back. He would play another season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. His statement was confident and assured. He said he realized his place was still on the field, not in the stands. He talked about unfinished business. He framed it as following his competitive heart. But what about his place at home? What about the promises he made to his wife? What about the letter in the drawer that spelled out exactly what would happen if he kept choosing football over family? Sources close to Gisele told reporters that she felt completely blindsided. This was not just about football. This was about trust. They had discussed retirement together. They had made plans as a couple. They had agreed on a direction for their future. And Tom Brady decided, on his own, that his desires mattered more than their agreement, that his need to compete mattered more than his commitment to change. One source told the media the devastating truth. Gisele feels like Tom has chosen his career over his family, and she is tired of it. Another insider said she does not hate that he plays football. She hates how he handled the retirement and coming back. The issue was never the sport itself. The issue was the pattern. The issue was that every time she believed him when he said things would be different, he proved that nothing had changed at all. The 2022 season started with Brady present physically, but clearly somewhere else mentally. In August, he took an 11-day leave from training camp for personal reasons. The team did not explain what was happening. Nobody officially confirmed anything. But everyone could guess. By September, reports came flooding in from every direction. Tom and Gisele were living in separate houses. They had an epic fight. Divorce lawyers had been contacted on both sides. The greatest quarterback in football history was watching his marriage collapse in real time, and he had no idea how to stop it. A man falling apart. Tom Moore had spent decades in professional football as an assistant coach. He had seen everything the sport could do to a person. The injuries, the pressure, the toll it takes on bodies and minds and families. But what he witnessed during the 2022 season in Tampa Bay was something different. Something he had never encountered before. He was watching Tom Brady fall completely apart. The quarterback, who was famous for his perfect diet and incredible fitness, was losing weight at an alarming rate. He dropped nearly 20 pounds. His face became gaunt and hollow, the cheekbones prominent in a way they had never been before. The competitive fire that had defined him for 2 decades seemed to be dying out. The intensity that teammates had always described, that relentless focus on winning, was replaced by something that looked like emptiness. Moore later wrote about one moment that haunted him long after that season ended. After a difficult game, Brady walked back to the locker room and did something nobody had ever seen him do before. The 7-time Super Bowl champion sat down facing his locker, still wearing his full uniform. Helmet off, but pads still on. He put his head between his legs. and he did not move for 20 minutes. He did not speak to anyone. He did not change clothes. He did not acknowledge the coaches or teammates walking past him. He just sat there, completely frozen. A broken man in shoulder pads, the weight of everything crushing him in that moment. 22 years of football had never broken Tom Brady. Deflategate could not break him. Age could not break him. Injuries could not break him. But this was something else. This was a man watching his whole world collapse and realizing that he might be the one who destroyed it. The public was watching the marriage fall apart in real time. Photographers captured Gisele without her wedding ring at various events. The couple had not been seen together in weeks, then months. Every tabloid in America ran stories speculating about what went wrong. The gossip machine that usually focused on Hollywood celebrities turned its full attention to the Brady household. Tom tried to address it on his podcast. He talked vaguely about life challenges. He admitted that football was taking everything out of him. But he could not say what everyone already knew. He was watching his family disappear, and he could not stop it. All those skills that made him great on the football field, the preparation, the film study, the ability to read defenses and adjust in real time, none of it worked in his personal life. He had no playbook for this. On October 28, 2022, the divorce became official. Tom Brady and Gisele Bundchen ended their 13-year marriage. The paperwork was filed and finalized on the same day because they had a prenuptial agreement and had already worked out custody arrangements for their children. Both released carefully worded statements about putting their children first, about gratitude for the time they shared, about wishing each other well. But neither of them revealed the real reasons behind the split. That would come later, when Gisele decided to tell her side of the story. And what she said would change everything people thought they knew about their relationship. The death of a dream. In March 2023, Gisele Bundchen appeared on the cover of Vanity Fair magazine for her first major interview since the divorce. She had remained largely silent while the tabloids speculated and the gossip columns invented stories. Now she had something important to say. And she was not holding back. First, she destroyed the biggest rumor that had followed her for months. People kept saying she gave Tom an ultimatum. Football or me. Choose right now. It was the narrative that made her look controlling, demanding, unreasonable. It painted her as the villain who could not support her husband's career. Gisele called this story the craziest thing she had ever heard. She said it was very hurtful that people believed she would do something like that. She never demanded he retire. She never issued an ultimatum. That was not the truth. The real reason was simpler, but also deeper. She explained that when they met, she was 26 and he was 29. They wanted a family together. They wanted the same things from life. But as time went by, they realized they wanted different things. It was not one decision that ended everything. It was years of growing apart until they could not recognize each other anymore. It was 1,000 small moments where they chose different priorities until the gap between them became impossible to bridge. But then, Gisele said something that cut deeper than anything about football or career choices. When reporters asked about rumors that she had cheated on Brady with Joaquim Valente, her jiu-jitsu instructor, she got angry. She said, "That is a lie." She said, "This is something that happens to a lot of women who get blamed when they have the courage to leave an unhealthy relationship." Unhealthy. She called her marriage to Tom Brady unhealthy. Not difficult, not challenging, unhealthy. The word hung in the air like an accusation that could never be taken back. In another interview with Robin Roberts, Gisele became emotional talking about the divorce. She called it the death of a dream. She had to stop and compose herself before continuing. This was not a woman who walked away without caring. This was not someone who left casually or easily. This was a person mourning a future that would never exist, grieving a life she had imagined and worked toward for 13 years. She had supported Tom through 7 Super Bowls. She had cheered for him even when it hurt her. She had rebuilt her life around his career again and again and again. Every time he needed to move for a new team, she packed up and followed. Every time he needed space to focus on football, every time he chose the sport over the family, she found a way to make it work. And in the end, she felt she had no choice but to leave. Not because she stopped loving him, but because she finally loved herself enough to walk away from something that was slowly breaking her. She told Vanity Fair that if there is one person she wants to be the happiest in the world, she wants all his dreams to come true. Even after everything, even after the years of feeling invisible and unsupported, she still wishes him well. That tells you everything about who Gisele is as a person. She does not carry bitterness. She does not seek revenge. She simply wanted something he could not give her. And she finally accepted that truth. The roast that destroyed him in May 2024, Tom Brady agreed to participate in something that seemed harmless and even fun. Netflix was producing a roast special, the kind of event where comedians take turns mocking a celebrity while they sit there and laugh along. It shows you are a good sport. It demonstrates that you do not take yourself too seriously. Plenty of famous people have done these specials over the years. It is almost a badge of honor. For Tom Brady, it became the biggest mistake of his post-football life. One comedian after another took the stage and tore into him. They mocked his divorce. They joked about Gisele leaving him for a jiu-jitsu instructor. They made crude jokes about his family situation while millions of people watched and laughed. They turned the most painful chapter of his life into entertainment, into punchlines delivered to thunderous applause. Brady sat there and laughed along. What else could he do? He had agreed to this. He had signed the contract. He was the star of the show. So he smiled and nodded and pretended that the jokes did not cut into places that were still bleeding. The next morning, everything changed. When Brady called his 3 children the day after the roast aired, he heard something in their voices that broke him. Jack, who is 17, Benjamin, who is 15, Vivian, who is 12. They had seen clips from the show. Their friends had seen clips. Strangers on the internet had seen clips. They had watched comedians turn their family pain into jokes for the whole world to laugh at. His children asked him directly, "What was the point of that? Why did you do that, Dad?" Brady had no answer. How do you explain to your children that you sat there while strangers made jokes about your family falling apart? How do you tell them you thought it would be fine when clearly it was not? How do you justify turning their mother and their home life into material for a comedy special? The man who always had a game plan for everything, who was famous for preparing more thoroughly than any quarterback in history, had no words for his own kids. He had no play to call. He had no adjustment to make. He had simply made a terrible decision. And now his children were hurt because of it. Months later, on a podcast, Brady finally admitted the truth about that conversation. He said talking to his kids the next day felt like a stake through the heart. Those words, coming from Tom Brady, meant everything. This is a man who never admits weakness. A man who built his entire identity on being unbreakable. And here he was, confessing to the whole world that he had hurt his own children. He later apologized to Gisele personally for allowing those jokes about her. But the damage was done. The roast forced Brady to face something he had avoided for years: the true cost of his choices, the true impact of putting himself and his career first while asking everyone else to sacrifice. The new life he cannot have. February 2025 brought news that stunned everyone following this story. Gisele Bundchen, at 44 years old, welcomed a baby boy with Joaquim Valenti. Her third child, but her first with someone other than Tom Brady. The supermodel who had put her life on hold for so many years was building a completely new family. Then came December 3rd, 2025. In a private ceremony at their home in Surfside, Florida, Gisele married Joaquim. The wedding was everything her first marriage was not: quiet, private, intimate, focused entirely on family instead of fame. No media circus, no celebrity guest list, no stadium full of people watching. Just two people who loved each other, making a commitment in their own home, surrounded by the people who mattered most. What made this more complicated for Brady was that he knew about the wedding before it happened. He was not blindsided by the news when it went public. He had time to prepare himself for this moment. Time to process the reality that his ex-wife was marrying another man. Time to accept the official end of any hope, however small, that he and Gisele might find their way back to each other. The contrast between their lives could not be more obvious. Gisele has found what she describes as an honest and transparent relationship. She has a new baby to love. She has a new husband who was her friend first. She has the peace she was looking for all along. She wakes up next to a man who puts her first, who is present, who does not disappear for months at a time chasing championships. Brady is calling NFL games for Fox. He posts mysterious messages on social media that fans try to decode. He reportedly dates on and off, searching for something. He still works constantly. He still fills his schedule with obligations and projects and appearances. The pattern that destroyed his marriage continues because it is the only way he knows how to live. 2 days after the wedding, news broke. Brady was back on television analyzing football like his personal life was not making headlines everywhere. Professional as always on the outside, controlled, composed, the same face he showed the world for 22 years in the NFL. But something was cracking inside, something that would finally lead him to admit what he had been running from his entire adult life. The confession that changes everything. At 48 years old, Tom Brady has finally stopped running from the truth. In a newsletter to his fans earlier this year, he tried to explain himself. Not as a quarterback, not as a 7-time Super Bowl champion, as a father, as a husband, as a man who made choices he now has to live with. The letter was defensive at first, almost pleading. He wrote that he believes part of being a great father is being a great example of what it takes to take care of your family. He chose to do that by playing football. He said his dedication to the sport, the hours of practice, the laser focus on being the best, were actually the best things he could do for his family. He was teaching by example, showing his children what commitment looks like, demonstrating what it takes to be great at your job. You can almost hear him trying to convince himself as much as anyone else. But then came the admission that showed the cracks in his confidence. The words that revealed a man wrestling with doubt for maybe the first time in his life. He wrote that you will not be perfect. You will fail and disappoint people along the way. For a man who built his entire career on refusing to accept failure, on treating every loss as a personal offense that demanded revenge, these words meant everything. Tom Brady was admitting he failed. Not on a football field where he could fix it with more preparation and harder work. In his own home, with the people who loved him most. He wrote that your actions reflect your priorities. That is what you need to live up to every day. And there it is. The confession hidden in plain sight. Tom Brady's actions showed his priorities. Football came first, always. Even when his wife wrote him a letter begging him to change. Even when she told him exactly what would happen if he did not. Even when he promised in therapy sessions and late-night conversations that things would be different. When it came time to choose, he chose the sport. Now he lives with that choice every single day. Greatness is easy to measure on a scoreboard, but far harder to measure in the quiet moments no one sees. One life moved forward, found peace, and closed a chapter. Another remains suspended in reflection, replaying decisions that once felt necessary, even noble. This story doesn't resolve with trophies or records. It lingers in the space between legacy and fulfillment, between what the world celebrates and what a person lives with alone. Because when the pursuit of greatness finally slows, the reckoning doesn't end. It begins. And the question that hangs over everything is not how much Tom Brady won, but this: when the final whistle has already blown, can a life be rebuilt? Or do some choices echo forever?